And we are live now.
Hello, everyone. A very good evening. Hope you all are here and happy and resuming life back to normalcy in the Unlock 4 with much safety and prevention. Sorry for a bit of delay in the session due to some technical error. Someone rightly said, history tells us what people did, and historical fiction tells us how they felt. This is precisely a session is about today. We have a renowned novelist, a cybersecurity consultant who will who will be talking to us about her latest novel, and she will counsel us on cybersecurity in the second half of the session. All the viewers, if you all have any queries or questions that you all want her to address, please drop them in the comment section. She will answer it during in the later half of the session. So our panelist for the day, Ms. Reetwika Banerjee, dons many hats. She is a cybersecurity consultant, and in her leisure hours, she loves to write. She's into filmmaking, traveling, counseling, and into education. And for excellence in her work, she was also nominated for Padam Shri Award 2020. Wow! Welcome, Ritvika.
Thank you, Monica. That's a. I don't think that I deserve so much of adjectives, but many thanks for the lovely introduction.
Okay, Ritvika, you have a bibliophile of 9 books. You've written 9 books of where they are poetry anthologies, short stories, micro tales, non-fiction books like cybersecurity at your fingertips, and travel tales. And the latest being The Secret Murder Witness of Sirajud-Dowla, which is a historical fiction thriller.
Yep.
Being this your debut novel, why did you choose this topic? I mean, it's so unheard of.
Well, if you look at the chapters of Indian history, briefly the time periods, during the culmination of the 17th century and the early beginning of 18th century, it was the time when the Delhi Sultanate of the Mughal era was kissing its downfall. And as it gradually kissed its downfall, it was the time when the British and all the other European traders like the Dutch, French, and all Armenians, they were slowly getting into the Indian subcontinent and they were spreading their wings across. So that was a time, early 18th century, when there was a lot of internal fights, lot of change of powerhouses which were happening across India. Now, if you look into Bengal, Bengal was the most influential and most the richest, I'll say rather, the richest of all the Mughal India subas. So Bengal Suba was the richest province as per at that time. So in Bengal, when Aurangzeb was slowly walking towards his deathbed, the Bengal Nawab slowly rose to power. In fact, it was Aurangzeb himself who had declared Bengal as an independent province, and he had selected one of the Bengal divans or the prime ministers typically, as per the Mughal terminologies. He was Murshid Quli Khan, who was appointed as the first independent Nawab of Bengal. With the ages, it changed its hands, the Masnad of Bengal, it is typically called. So he was the Nawab, and then the Nawab, the Masnads started changing hands, and finally it ended up with Siraj-ud-Dowla. He was just a 23 years old Nawab, the youngest of all the Bengal Nawabs, and it was in the year of 1757 when the Battle of Plassey had happened, which is officially the first organized battle against the British Door. So Robert Clive was the opponent, and due to a lot of internal treacheries and many questions which happened at the back end, the Bengal Nawab Siraj-ud-Dowla, he lost to the British, and that is how he is often regarded as the first official freedom fighter of India.
Wow. Yes,
So
I
this,
did read.
being an Indian and being a Bengali, why not come up with a historical fiction? Of course, it is my book is best out of the real incidents and the real historical characters, but the story which I have stringed to connect few of these dots. It's all fictional. So that is how it's a historical fiction. And I thought, why not get into something which is not that known and popular, but people of India should ideally know this.
Yes, 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 absolutely. I agree, Ritvika. This is what even I was thinking while you were saying this. How while you're writing a historical fiction, see, while we're studying, we consider history as something like facts. कि ये हुआ. अब
Right.
इसमें fiction कितना डालते हो और कैसे डालते हो? How do you merge the two?
See, writing historical fiction can be attempted in various ways. I'll focus on my style. What I generally do is, because I'm an extremely avid traveler, I travel across the country. I'll not say across the world, but yes, I've been fortunate to travel to some historical places outside India as well. But here within India, if you see, we had a very glorious past. And many pockets, like Delhi itself, Gujarat itself, Bengal itself, in the south also, if you go, there are lots of places where the history was very rich at a certain point of time, but unfortunately, due to some or the other reason, we the Indians have not documented that properly. However, we have depended on foreign writers to document our history. So that is one of the reasons why even that is my personal I'll say opinion. I have found that there are stories, there could be more stories which we couldn't read now because of lack of that. So I just try to imagine, go back to those days, try to find myself as one of the living persons of those times, and then create a story of my own. So my places are original, my characters are at times original. Of course, there are some fictional characters as well. If you're building a story, you need some fictional dots to connect. So that's how I mix facts and fiction in writing a historical fiction.
So the facts are maintained, but the fiction part is mostly minor characters or maybe into dramatization where the fictional element falls in. Right,
That's right.
actually. It's really truly said, to show how they must have felt and the conflicts they must have faced. So that's where the fiction part takes place.
True,
That's
true.
very, very, very nice. I really, you also mentioned in the book that he was the last independent Nawab of India, being the first freedom fighter as well as the last Nawab. And there was also a mention in the book, something you said that Robert Clive was his opponent. So what is Robert Clive also playing some role in the book of antagonist?
Well, yes. My book primarily focus on the murder of Nawab Sirajud-Dowla. Now, what is the story? There are lots of sub stories and subplots which happened surrounding the death of this Nawab Sirajud-Dowla. I'll start from the end. And in the sense, 1757, the Battle of Plassey. Everywhere in every history book, Indian history book, you'll find a dedicated to this battle. Maybe only a half page, but though it might be seen as a half page incident, but its impact was at 260 years of British rule in India. So that says how the magnitude of this battle. Now, I previous to this battle, there were other battles which had happened across other parts of India led by different legendary rulers, kings, and I'll say sultans. But after this particular battle, India lost its independence across the territory. So, whatever happened in this battle was impacting the entire nation at that time. Second important thing is it was the first battle where British East India Company was not the actual opponent. It was the British Dominion which was the opponent. It was not the traders who were fighting the war. It was the British Dominion. So it was the first colonial uprising which India was fighting with the Europeans. So that was the importance of the Battle of Plassey. Now, coming especially to Robert Clive, Sir Robert Clive, he was the face of not Indian, the British Indian East India Company, which was headquartered at Madras. They used to call Madras at that time. Now
Mhm.
it's Chennai. So from there, he came to Kolkata, and then he marched towards a city. The city was called Murshidabad. Murshidabad was the capital of Bengal Nawabs. Kolkata was nowhere in place at that time. Then the Plassey is a small place near Murshidabad. In between it's Kolkata and Murshidabad, where this battle was actually fought. Now, Robert Clive identified that Siraj-ud-Daulah was having some very close ties. He was developing very close ties with the French East India Company. This French East India Company was settled in Chinsura. That's another small town in near Kolkata. So, in the global scenario, if you look at it was that time of the century where British and French were having the 7 years war in the world politics. So what you can see that British and French were basically staunch enemies, and here within India also, the ruling Nawab was gaining some power, so gaining some alliance with the French East India Company. So the British, led by Robert Clive, had to take a hard call to uh, go against the Nawab so that they don't get defeated by the French East India Company. So that led to the plotting of this battle. So why this battle happened was because of this 7 year war in the global spectrum. Now coming to Siraj-ud-Daulah, why he is so important? He was a very, as a person, as it has been mentioned in the various history books which I have come across, most of them have been written by uh, foreign historians, and some were his Indian historians who have also written a couple of books. May not be couple, maybe 3 or 4 books, but all of these books, even written by Indian historians, were by under the
Hi.
British rule in India. Yeah, so that's how it has been written. So the perspective matters. So based on the research which I have done personal at my personal level, this man, this Siraj-ud-Daulah, he was uh, around 17 years when he first got the Nawab title of Bengal. Now, at that point, Bengal was not today's Bengal. The territory included parts of Assam, the entire Bangladesh, parts of Myanmar, parts of today's Bengal, parts of Kalinga or Orissa, parts of Bihar, Jharkhand, and some parts of Chhattisgarh. So it was almost half the country which came under the territory of Bengal, and this territory was defined by the Mughals. So Bengal Suba, they used to call it. So the Suba Bengal was the largest and the most wealthiest provinces of all the Indian subcontinent. Now, ruling that, definitely you will have some insiders, you will have some people on your side, you will have some people against you. This guy was too young to administer such a big and important territory. 17 years, you can understand, right? He was just a teenager, and by personal traits, he was like a very pampered, spoiled brat of a very old and well established Nawab. His father was not a Nawab. His mother and his aunt were the two sisters of the ruling Nawab of Bengal. His name was Alivardi Khan. This Alivardi Khan didn't have a son, so Amina was his one of his daughters, who's passed on the legacy to his grandson Siraj-ud-Daulah. So if you see, just look back a few years, Alivardi Khan had ruled for 2 decades because of he didn't have a son to pass the legacy on. He waited for Siraj to grow up and pass on the legacy. In the meantime, what happened? There came a very important character called Mir Zafar. Mir Zafar was the head commander in general of Alivardi Khan for 16 years. He always longed for the Masnad of Bengal, wanted to become the Nawab of Bengal. But Alivardi Khan, due to some reasons, maybe we can discuss that in the due course of this session, due to some reasons, he sided him and pushed his spoiled grandson as the Nawab of Bengal. That actually in fact very minutely impacted or rather humiliated Mirzafar and his clan, and that is how he slowly joined hands with the British. And finally, when this Battle of Plassey was declared by British on the Bengal Nawab, yes, this is also another important fact. This battle, till now, whatever battles till 1757 had happened, it was the king who had announced the war on the ruling king announced the war on the opponent. But this was the only war with the first war of that time when the British, the opponent, had declared a war on the ruling Nawab. So that was also another significant point of this Battle of Plassey. So it's not a war, actually, it was a battle. And so that was the reason why Mirzafar, being one of the commander generals of the Nawab himself, the ruling Nawab, had joined hands silently, and the secretary, of course, joined the hands with British. So that is how it was easier for Robert Clive to get into this province and break it into pieces. And if you see, divide and rule had always been the strategy of the British throughout their rule in India. So perhaps I somehow feel this was their first successful implementation where they could do this. Like they tried, they found out insiders who could be actually purchased, and then they divided internally, and then they won the battle and ruled it for the next so many years.
Extensive research, I must say, Reetwika. Extensive research. And can we say this? Since all the movement of the Britishers began with that battle somewhere, so that is the one of the reasons why Calcutta was, the British capital. If you see the whole organization, and that Kolkata was the hub. If you see
Exactly. After this
the
battle of Plassey, Robert Clive didn't want to continue the capital to be in Murshidabad. It was little northern if you look at the geographical location of Kolkata and Murshidabad falls under North Bengal. So it was in north of Kolkata. So he wanted to shift it to the central part of the province, which was Kolkata, because it was very near to the shores. Like Kidarpur was the dock at that time, and the primary business of British were the East India Company. Like their ships used to arrive with the merchant ships and merchandise and everything. So that business was actually more easier for them to conduct from Kolkata than Murshidabad. That was one of the reasons, and also with the approval from Mughals, the British had built their own fort at Kolkata, which was called Fort William. So that fort is in Kolkata. Their dock is in Kolkata. So it was all easier to manage this show, to govern their rule from Kolkata. So they shifted the capital. The first British capital was thus shifted from Murshidabad to Kolkata. And initially, it was actually the real name of Kolkata was Kolikata. Kolikata was a small village at that point of time. Actually, today's Kolkata, if you see, there are three small villages which had earlier comprised of Kolkata. It was called Govindapur, Shutanuti, and Kolikata. So that these three villages were combined to form one capital city, which was called the Kolikata. This Kolikata, when Sirajuddaula was in rule, Alivardi Khan was in rule, they had named it as Ali Nagar in the name of Alivardi Khan. So Ali Nagar is also the name of Kolkata, of Nawabi Kolkata. Then this Ali Nagar was changed to Calcutta by Robert Clive, and it was declared as the first British capital of India. It was in the year 1957 which marked these changes, and with time it has now become Kolkata.
Great. I mean, extensively. I mean, I'm able to actually travel through all and see. Okay, Ritika, there's one more thing that your book says it has a element of thrill in it. It's a historical fiction thriller. So these are more of like facts. So is there some thrill also, like, because does it have any thrill, suspense, or is that part of the fact, or is it fictionalized things that you've added to the story?
What I'll say, it's 50-50. Sirajuddaula was very brutally murdered after he lost in the Battle of Plassey. His fight in the battle was was heavily betrayed by his own people. I'll I'll not take the names right now, but there were some insiders in his army itself who deliberately supported British, and they did not fight in favor of their own Nawab. So when he realized this, it was very late. He was already in the middle of the battle when when he actually realized he is in big trouble. He cannot win this battle. So what he did, he had to flee from the battle at the dead hours of the night. So after he fled away from the battlefield, the next morning, British actually announced that Siraj-Dowlah has been defeated and British has gained the, won the battle, and they will be the ruling powers from next on. So there's no Nawabi rule in Bengal anymore. So that was declared by Robert Clive and his men the next day of the war. But here, if you look, Nawab, the ruling Nawab, was just flying and hiding across at various parts of his own province. So he was a man of around 7.5 feet. So that's a huge height, and equally, I'll say he was a well-built body. And his sword, the sword which he used to find it, I mean, it says a lucky charm. That sword itself was 6.5 feet, and it was an arced sword. It's kind of a parabolic so that was, and it was close to, as per history, of course, around 40 kgs. So 40 kg is the weight of his sword. So you can well understand how what was his physique. We can't even imagine this days. So it was very difficult for him to find hideouts because common people were definitely were not of his types. He was of Arabic origin by blood, so he was very religious as a person as well. And if we look at the time of the battle, it was so chosen that it was a very holy month as per Islam. So everyday prayers was something which he had to do as being a devoted Islam. So he was a very religious person. So what was his main problem was finding a proper hideout. Now, during this search of hideout, there were a couple of people. One was a fakir and one was a common man who actually identified him. Though he was in disguise as a common man, but looking at his physique, everybody could understand. Whoever saw him could understand he is not a common man. He must be the Nawab. So at that time, Facebook was not there, so may not be they know my face, but at least by physique they can know.
He's a Nawab.
And it is said that he was hiding inside a dry well. At night, some old fakir was just passing by that well, and he heard the sound of a lizard tick, 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 tick. 3 times the lizard ticked like that. And it is believed at that time, even now in some parts of Bengal, that if a lizard is ticking in a desolated area, there must be someone present inside. I mean, around, because the sound of the feet actually created a sound wave which the lizard's body, the skin is that is it responds that way. So that's the science behind it. So it was like that. Nawab was caught by that way. So the lizard take, the fakir gave the information to the British that Nawab is hiding there. In the morning they came and caught him. So this was actually some parts it is in true, some parts it's fiction, I'll say. So I've matched and mixed this fiction in this. So it was a kind of abduction case. After he was abducted, he was, as per Islam, once someone is, that is what I've read actually. If someone is after someone's demise, his body should not be touched because that itself becomes holy. The body becomes then a holy, divine body, actually, divinity. So he should not be touching. So after he was abducted, he was taken back to Mirzafar's palace when Mirzafar was his royal commander in chief. And this Mirzafar actually fought with the British against the Nawab. So the gateway of his palace was a huge gate, and this gate had 3 tiers with 16 chambers, hidden chambers. Some of them could be seen from outside, where the securities were there to keep a check, like who is coming, going, and all for surveillance. Whereas the inside chambers were all hidden seraglios. In one of those chambers, his son had taken he was abducted and taken to this gateway, and there he was murdered in a very brutal way. So this is only present in history, saying that he was murdered, Siraj Dowlah was murdered in this gate. But how he was murdered, who did that, nobody knows, because nobody has written that. So that is where my fictional story comes in, that how it happened, who saw this, who was the witness, who did it, how did it happen. I mean, how was it day when he was murdered? Yes. So that is the of the story, and that is the thriller. I'll not spoil by saying what happened, who is the witness or not.
After listening to you, I'm definitely ordering the book right away. after just this
Actually,
study.
I want
I
to
mean, I
show
really
you
want
one.
to read about
So this
this.
was the gate. This is my book. If
Wow.
you go to
It
the
looks
end of the book, you have the real photos of those places, the mansions which I just told. This is
Are
the
these are these real pictures that you took?
These are real pictures. I have taken this. I've gone there, I've stayed there, and then I've taken this. So this
So the
is
liquor
the.
is there.
It is there, very much there. This is Murshidabad. This is called the Namakharam Deuri. Namakharam Deuri or Namakharam Deuri. Why? Because in this chamber, this
And
chamber behind this chamber, इसके पीछे वाला जो है, the behind one, this is the chamber where Siraj was actually murdered, and the
murdered.
pillars
Okay, and it was done by some of the
still have the blood stains of Siraj. It is said, and it is said to be a haunted place. And there are many people who still believe that after 5 p.m. I'm not going to cross this. I'm not going to stay here because there are some ill spirits which are still dominating the place.
still stories and
That
myths connected to
and
it.
the fictional touch of my story.
It is absolutely amazing, Ritvika. I mean, you've done extensive research and the story is so appealing. I'm definitely looking forward to reading it soon.
And
Okay.
I'll look forward to your review on Amazon. And that's a request from my side.
I am an evolving historian. I'm definitely picking. This is going to be my next pick, certainly. Okay,
Great.
Ritika, moving on to the next session, the next part of the session. You are a passionate writer, and professionally, you are a cybersecurity consultant. What is cybersecurity? I mean, we all use internet as laymen, as kids. I mean, as young as 3 to 4 years, the kids are using it these days, and it's become a very ingrained part of our life now. We cannot do without it. And post pandemic and during the pandemic, it really got into our life more closely. Now there is this huge dependency on it. So, what is cybersecurity actually? If you try to explain this to a common man.
See, cyber security, it's two words. One is cyber, one is security. Security, we all understand. Something which something to protect, the way to protect yourself, the need of protection.
Mm,
Cyber word, when it first came, if you just look back a few years, it only meant something which relates to internet. But today, if you look at the word cyber security, cyber is not just restricted to internet. It also includes in your outside internet private life as well. Now, I'll tell you how. Suppose this is something which we all have nowadays in our pockets, the smartphone.
mm,
This phone can connect you in two ways. One using the mobile tower, and
mm,
next is using the internet. There are two
mm,
ways you are connected to the world.
mm,
Now let's see, this mobile you are not using for internet. You are only using the mobile tower. Do you think that you are at zero risk? No security is required? No. Why? I'll give a simple example. Everyone is longing for 4G, now 5G. People are aiming for. What is this 4G? It's fourth generation, basically.
mm,
Fourth generation of not internet, telecom, telephony, fourth generation telephony. That is called 4G. Simply, you can just map 3G, 2G, and all. And this telephone system, what defines a generation of a telephony system? Earlier it used to be a simple, if you looked at in our childhood, there were some big cables which are placed under the, under the roads, and underground cabling systems were there.
mhm,
And with time we have come up to this wireless connection. So every change in communication medium was marked as a generation in terms of telephone management or telecom management. So that's our
mm,
first generation, second generation, third generation, and now we are at fourth generation. What is the main difference between 3G and 4G? 3G used to send packets of data. This one sends data through wireless. So it is sent, this data is sent in terms of not packets, in terms of data. data bytes. So that is the main reason where you are getting exposed. I'm not trying to take the technical terms here. I'm specifically avoiding
Yes,
those terms.
yes,
So I'm just trying to
yes.
explain in common terms like what defines a 4G and a 3G. So set aside your internet connection. Even if you're connected on a 4G network, you are exposed to lots of risks. So everything nowadays, if you see, will fall under the arena of cyber world, and whatever you need to protect yourself is called will come under the arena of cyber security. So it's a larger than cyber now. It has
Oh,
become with the rise in technology.
this is really I mean interesting what you really explained about 3G, 4G, and 2G. This is
You
really,
might
but
have seen at times your connection is a 4G connection, let's say. But if
mm,
you might have seen at some time that it is showing you some age, EDGE. It is showing something on the top of your mobile screen where the mobile network comes like 1 2 3 green signals and all. You can
yeah.
see that now it is VOLTE, whereas at sometimes you will see EDG. So what is that? You have a 4G connection but it is downgraded to say 2G 3G network and you are not able to connect properly. What
Mm,
is the main issue? Because it might happen that at the nearest mobile tower where your mobile is connecting, that is actually facing a breach of downgradation. So that is called a downgrade attack. Like you are trying to connect to 4G, a higher grade, you're paying for that, but your data quality is degrading to 3G. You are saying mobile tower is not working, my mobile connection is weak, but actually if you see from the telecom service provider's point of view, it is his mobile tower which is facing this cyber threat, cyber risk. Someone is trying to breach in and degrade the quality. It might be a competitor strategy as well.
oh, this is scary to some extent listening to this. But Ritika, what I mean, what is the target? I mean, what are they targeting? Since your profile does mention that you are, a privacy. I mean, you are a data privacy consultant. So, what sort of data are they targeting? I mean, we are common people. Not everybody is into big, huge things. Okay, we do have monetary transactions on everybody's mobile. Paytm is like used every now and then. What sort of data is the basic target mostly?
Uh, it is very difficult to say in particular that what data they are referring to, but they mostly aim for any kind of data. This making sense of any data will make it an information for them. So, who is the target? That target will define which data will be important. Maybe for you, your personal data is not that important, but maybe your writing, if since you are into writing, your laptop information might be important to me if you're looking from an attacker's perspective. I don't mind what's your Aadhaar number, but I might be interested what is your laptop password because you might have some copyrighted contents there, which I might need to steal.
So that's risky, actually risky.
National dignitary, his personal data will maybe more important. His thumb impressions, his retina scans, because that might be password or biometric key to some very critical server. So that
Hmm.
depends who is the target, and depending on that, the data will be important. So personal data we typically classify as one of the important targets for the attackers, the fraudsters, or the cyber criminals, because personal in a population heavy country like India, we hardly value our own personal data, like for the example, our name, our photos, our even thumb impressions. For
Hmm.
for every single thing, we keep sharing our phone numbers, email IDs, even those are our personal data. So, how do you protect? You don't even think of protecting your Aadhaar number. We are giving Aadhaar number for even to the delivery boy who is coming. I
Ah,
am accepting some parcel. I am
actually,
giving a. It's, I am. Am I at all thinking what he can do? What will he? Why will he need a Aadhaar number? And Aadhaar number, if you look into the database, you will get everything. He doesn't need anything else.
true, true.
Right,
Actually,
so we don't really care. We, the Indians, or the rather, I'll say South Asian countries, there's a common psychological behavior that we are not much careful about our personal data, which at times come at the targets of cyber criminals and cyber fraudsters for various reasons they might be using this. But credit card and all, we really take care nowadays. We know that this is a very critical information. I should not be sharing the CVV, the OTP, and other things. But personal data is something which is really it's a concern nowadays, like protecting that
So
our
how do
person.
we feel self? I mean, like you said, I'm hearing you. Actually, I feel everything is at risk, and we don't know why they would want it. Because recently, I guess today only I saw an ad wherein Amir Khan was there, and there was this digitalization and digital money based on that only. And he says, Alia Bhatt says, Amir Khan is saying, "अरे password कोई देख लेगा तो." Alia Bhatt says, UPI password भी है और thumbprint भी है. Now, after listening to you, I really feel that can also be breached upon. Like you said, your password, your thumbprints, and everything.
First thing which you should be careful about to whom you are giving, and is the reason legitimate. That is, these are
That's
the
what I want to
most
ask.
critical things. Blindly कुछ मत करो. Don't do anything blindly. उसने कह दिया तो मैंने दे दिया. No, it's your data. If somebody comes to you and asks for give me 10 rupees, what is the first thing you will do? You will. It's not that
Yeah.
10 rupees will matter much to you. You will ask what will you do with that and why will I give it to you? So these are the two questions. If you're doing for a 10 rupee note, you should do it for your personal any kind of data.
So,
Then
are there any
after
hints or anything that you can look out for?
sorry, I missed your question.
I mean, what are the hints or anything that you can look out for? Because see, while we are even while kids, if you see kids or even as adults, there are times we are downloading apps and it just asks you this like accept, accept, accept. We don't even read the whole thing. Sometimes they are asking you for your email ID and your passwords and blah blah things. So, are there any hints that you can look out for and like this is something which should not be shared or it's not needed?
Yes, couple of things you should always look for is whenever, like you took the example of downloading an app, whenever you're downloading an app which is not known to you, who has uploaded that app to that particular store, app store? So there's a section called author for every app. You have to go down to that, check whether that's a verified author or not. If the platform is like Google Play Store or iStore, if it's a, I'll say, very uh, authentic source of apps, because there are private app stores as well. Like you and me can create an app store and we can load in a hell lot of apps and then we can start selling that. That is also done. It can be done. So if you are downloading, first of all, you should not be download from any unknown app store. You should be absolutely sure from where I'm downloading, because these app stores, the standard app stores, have their uploading procedures, restrictions. They do a lot of checks before they allow any app to get uploaded to their database. That is one point. So from where you are downloading makes a very important point. Next is, once you are downloading, go scroll down to the author of that app and check if that author is a verified author or not, verified author of that app or not. If it is not verified, there will not be a green tick. If it is verified, there will be a green tick. So if there is green ticked author, then you should download that app. Otherwise, please don't take a risk of downloading, because you don't know the app might be claiming to do so many funny things like beautification or some cartoonizing your face and all, but at the back end, it might steal your data and pass it on to someone else. You never know. So verified apps and authors should only be downloaded. So you have to be careful while you are downloading any app. Coming to normal things like the financial cards, the payment cards which we're using for online transactions or over the network transactions, POS transactions, be very careful about two things again. One is the gateway. You must be using this card in some gateway, some website, some maybe some merchandise. You are doing this, a merchant gateway is there. Some payment window must be there. That window, whether it is a secured window or not, or whether it is a approved window or not. How will you get to know that? In the screen where you are entering your card details, just below that you will find that whether it is PCI DSS certified. PCI DSS is a payment card industry security standard. It checks compliance. It ensures whether a payment gateway is secured or not, in the terms that whenever you are entering your payment card data to this kind of gateways, at the back end they will not store your card information. Even if it is stored, it will be encrypted, it will be safe, it will not be misused. So if this is not PCI DSS certified or very science, like PCI DSS, there are a few more security standards. So if it is not verified by any of the security standards, don't use your card information there. Then there is no guarantee how in the back end that card information will be used. So these are the two most pitfalls, common pitfalls of attackers, like wherein they still know, after knowing so many things, people are there who will actually keep sharing this or keep downloading unknown apps. So try to restrain yourself from make having some fun. If you can compromise your fun, having fun and against sharing your.
I guess we should do it more thoughtfully because we're using internet I feel in a very, liberal and casual manner. At least what I have seen around me, and that's what even I do to some extent.
Internet is very much like a borderless country. If you don't have a protected border, you're standing there, you are exposed to n number of risks. Having
Actually,
internet in your device, personal device, be it a laptop, be it a mobile phone or whatever it is as good as a borderless international border where you're standing. So you
right.
have to be your own protector.
Here to protect.
You
That's
cannot demand कि मुझे protect क्यों नहीं किया. Why is someone not protecting me? No, you have to first learn to protect yourself. There will be people who will be supporting you, but if you are exposing yourself, nobody can come of your rescue.
more of such counseling sessions are needed. Actually, must be certainly. This is like a real awareness thing which we didn't know of, and maybe we didn't pay attention to. Even if it did come, we don't get.
We take
We
internet
breathe
very
through.
lightly.
Yes, that's what I
That is
said.
something.
Use it very, very casually. Even the kids, even forget. I mean, it's the elders who are not even aware. So how will the kids? Even the kids are
And
using.
now when this online learning thing is taking up,
Yeah,
so we have to be really, really very careful. Whatever I said, like as parents, we have to be extremely careful what risks we are exposing our children to. But that doesn't mean we should stop using technology. That will hindrance growth. That will hindrance my success. But that's not what is required. But whenever there comes a new technology, you should first learn how to protect yourself from the abuses of a technology, even before learning how to use that technology.
yes,
That
user
is what,
manual should be read, and the homework must be done well before we
yes.
get into it. Actually, this
Like
was
whenever
very
you go to a new place, what do you do? Do you go there and then learn what can be my difficult situations here? No, you do a ground research कि अगर मैं वहाँ पे चली जाती हूँ, then what are the difficulties I'm going to face? You prepare accordingly and then you go. It's not that you don't go there. You prepare and go.
yes.
Technology is
That's
also very similar to that. You prepare yourself, do the groundwork, get yourself properly acquainted with the technology and then start using it. There's no point because you can't go back and then recover from it and then come back and then you can start using it again. There is no reset button actually in life. So that is
mm,
something you should be more careful, especially when you are allowing your kids to use internet.
actually, you're right. Okay, Ritika, come. I just this session was really helpful, and I mean, how I mean, professionally you are a cybersecurity consultant, and passionately you are a writer. Where your storytelling, traveling. Do they complement each other? Do they help you? And how much of it do you mix and match? And does cybersecurity somewhere help you? I mean, do you mention it like you've done a lot of research in history? So what was there this thing spying and all? What was this? I mean, do you have a word for that?
I mean, you hit the bullseye actually, I'll say. Being into different domains, contradictory domains, I'll rather say, also gives you the advantage of doing a lot of experimentation. For example, like I'll take the question which you rose. Uh, Going back to my historical fiction, my book, at that time, this book is actually covers during end of 17th century and middle of 18th century. Typically, that is the time frame. If you see, forget cybersecurity, there was not even the in in no way it was not even related to any kind of internet, any kind of internet telephony messenger technology. Was it really? No, the medium was different. Information was still there. It was not information technology. It was information messenger. Messenger today, what we call it, instant messenger. Messengers were all persons. Messengers we did have. Do you
Uh,
really think such a big battle could be fought without secret message exchanges? Cannot
yeah,
be.
yes, such.
Without any kind of surveillance, do you really think that you can have a battle? You can win a battle, you can have secret ties developing within the Nawab's estates? No, right? So there were
Spy,
definitely
everything.
spies will be there, and there were. I mean, I'll just take an example which I came across. It is not fiction; it is fact. This Mirzafar, in fact, Mirzafar's son, eldest son, Miran, he was a very bird lover. Nowadays, budding is a catchword, right? So he was a bird lover, and he had trained three birds amidst many others, which was one was a peregrine falcon. If we have any budder in this group, you will understand. A peregrine falcon is a small bird, a small raptor. A raptor is a bird which actually is a preying bird. So it preys another bird and then feeds on it. It doesn't go for fruits and all. So it's just one of the smallest raptors and one of the most powerful of it. It is impeccable at its target. So he
Mhm.
was a grand falconer, Miran, and he had trained a bird, a falcon, peregrine falcon, and he used to use that falcon for keeping an eye on Siraj movement, everything. So that was his drone, basically. If you just map it to today's technology, that is drone which he had. Even with that but he used to attack on people, attack on targets because it was impeccable with that. So falconry, it was an it was a kind of war art form that time. Like they used to practice sword fighting. So falconry was another, I mean, a technique used by the Arabs. So they were
Mhm.
of Arabic origin, and so falconry they used it as a fighting tool, fighting mechanism, as well as a surveillance mechanism. So drone basically dates back to this kind of primitive
Yeah,
implementations, and
the
the
inspiration
ideas came
has
from
come
there.
from there.
So
Yes,
that is
something,
one.
some inspiration could be
So
picked up from
the
there.
messenger itself, the word, now we call it it's as IM, DM, IM, so many XYZ messengers we use. So this messenger was nothing but a person or a set of persons who used to do it on the ground. If someone is sending a message from Delhi to Kolkata, from let's say from Aurangzeb to Bengal Nawab, if the message is coming, do you really think one person used to send that and come travel from Delhi to Kolkata with that message? No, it was never that. It was at least broken into 3 to 4 phases, like a hurdle. One
Oh,
person used to send some part of a message to messenger 1. Messenger 1 will transmit some of the message to messenger 2, whereas this messenger 1 through some another person will send the rest of the message. So if you look into this, nobody will have the entire information available at a time. So even if someone gets compromised in the middle by some other opponents, he will not get the facts. That is what encryption. You are encrypting and segregating the information into multiple. Like you are showing an elephant to a blind. If you're showing it to the nose side, the it is he will understand that the entire elephant feels like that. If you show the leg, they'll understand that the entire elephant will look like leg, but nobody will have an understanding of the magnitude of it. So that's how they used to do it. So messengers were all segregated. They call it segregation of duty. Nowadays, that's a key term. Again,
mhm.
if there was a man in the middle, MITM is a very common attack, man in the middle attack in network security, if you come across this. So even if there was an MITM, they will not get to know the entire one. And finally, the the recipient will have some code at his end. Generally, it was kind of a braille kind of a code. Like braille, you understand, right? The blinds touch and they read something. So that kind of a code was there. Only after touching it, the entire message will be completed. So you can't read a message. What you see is not a message. What you interpret it, you only if you know what you have to interpret. So that was again a kind of a steganography. So lots of technologies were there, techniques were there, which have now transformed to technologies. So that's
So
I tried.
the domain was helpful to you while you were fictionalizing and understanding and putting it on the paper. So it must have been really interesting and helpful as well. I think Ritvika, we can go on with this session, but the clock says that we are heading towards the end. Is there anything that you want to mention to us?
Coming back to my cybersecurity, as a counselor, I do a lot of counseling sessions for common people as well as for the experts. So, one message, or rather, one tip, which I keep sharing in almost all my sessions is that you have to be responsible for your own security. Because if you look at the word security, it also has the word you. So, even security, the word itself is incomplete without you. So you have to own your own security. You can take help of others. It is not an appliance. It is an enabler. So try
Very,
to be
very.
more responsible and take care of yourself.
Thank you so much. This is truly, I mean, I totally agree. We are the ones who have to be responsible for our own security.
Mhm.
Definitely. They will sign off here, Ritika. A very heartfelt thank you on behalf of Karma Foundation and Ahmedabad Book Club. It was lovely
Thank you.
having you with us and for such an insightful and informative session.
Thank you.
We
And
will
I think we
lots
have
of
got some
such
good comments
more
also.
books.
I will
Yes,
like to really thank Rinkal Gupta, Aditi Bhojani, Shravani Medda, Rashmi Bajaj, and many others which I can see. Thank you so much for your lovely comments. And if you have any questions regarding any of these topics, feel free to ping me or Monica anytime you want. We are always there to help you out.
yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank you.
much to our viewers as
Thank you,
well.
Ahmedabad Book Club.
Take care and have a lovely evening. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Thank you. Bye bye.